one of the hotel's suites. The space was huge and filled with all sorts of items from Saks.com, curated by Julie Heller. We had coffee and French pastries, and Ivan from the beauty sandwich popped by to say hello. They also had so many amazing things for New Year's Eve, loving all the sparkly dresses and bags. What a fun pop-up.
I'm not toxic, I'm classy, so I'm toxique.
If looks could kill, we wouldn't want to be Dan Humphrey.
Our wish list is always a mile. Shopaholics, we're going to spend our lunch break online shopping. We're shopaholics. When we spend money, we always do girl math. We're shopaholics. If we like our outfit, we never get cold. We're shopaholics. If we like it, we're gonna buy it in every color. We're shopaholics. We don't gatekeep where our outfits are clean.
Come with me to a Saks pop-up event at the
VCU Fashion, make some noise. How's everyone doing today? You can do better than that. How is everyone doing today? I know you're bummed about missing your afternoon class, but I promise you we're going to make it worth your while. We have a very special guest that's with us. She's bigger than life, as you can see. She is a daughter. She is a wife. She is a mother. She is a senior executive at a major retail corporation. And today, she's here with all of you because we asked her. That's all we did. We asked her if she would be here, and she immediately said yes. So I want you guys to give a warm, fashionable welcome to Trenesa-Danuser. She's coming in from the back. Oh, you took those shoes off.
Yes, yes. Fashion's painful sometimes.
Have a seat, make yourself comfortable. You can leave your shoes off if you like.
No, I gotta put the Gucci's back on, but I didn't want to fall down the stairs.
So listen, we want to tell you a little bit about how this is going to work. Trenesa and I are going to have a little conversation. You guys, you're not even here, but we absolutely want you to ask questions that you have, and we're going to build in some time for you to do that today. So Ms. Diego and Professor Diego and Professor Sellers have mics. When it comes time for question and answers, they will bring the mic up to your row and hopefully get it to you. I know over here it's kind of hard for you to get to the end of the row, but we might pass the mic to you, or if you can get to the end, you can ask your question of Trenesa. In fact, she asked me to tell you to call her Trenesa.
Please.
Ms. Danuser is...
That's my husband's name anyway.
Not her name. So that's how we're going to work it. You guys ready? Yeah. Let's get started. So, as I told you, she's a daughter, a wife, a mother, not necessarily in that order, but one of the things that she did was provide us with some images of her life. And so we're going to ask her to take us through and tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here. And if we have technical difficulties, you'll know. But we have a great technical person in Vanna and I'll just call Vanna if I need Vanna.
Vanna's great. She's lovely. Thanks, Vanna.
Wonderful. So, tell us who we have here. You're a family woman.
I am. And the whole point of our chat today is just to hopefully share one single example of a person who went through the same process that you all are going through as sort of going to college, trying to figure things out, and building a life. So nobody's special. I'm just one person who has a story, and you all have that story. So this is my story. This is my family. My daughter is Dylan in red, and my son Roman. Dylan is actually 23. She took a gap year during the pandemic, and she's graduating in May. So some of you I know are getting ready to graduate. So I have a college student at home. She's studying visual arts at Montclair State University. She was originally, as we talked about, which is very painful to me, at Ithaca, and she decided, I'm gonna change my major. And in that, she shifted from thinking she would be doing what mommy does, which is a communications role, and she really wanted to express herself through her art. My husband's an artist, he's a filmmaker, so she got it naturally, but it did cost us a lot of money for her to figure that out. But anyway, we love her, we're excited for her to graduate in May, and my son Roman is an 11th grader, so my first time being here in Richmond and seeing your fantastic college, and I was like, oh, we need to be checking out this school. So he might be a fellow classmate one day. He's in the 11th grade, so this is just us, you know, vacationing in Martha's Vineyard, just living our lives, just normal people. This is really exciting. This is me with my dad, Robert Stanford. He is he just finished writing his book. This was his 75th birthday party a couple of months ago, and his book release party. You all have a story. He has a story, and it was really a great privilege for me to be able to spend some time with him and work on editing his book and short story, which is why I took my shoes off to come down the stairs. This time last year, I broke 2 bones in this leg. And so while I was home with my leg on 7 pillows, I was able to have my father read each chapter of his book to me. And I said, but Daddy, you're leaving things out. A little more detail, please. And I got to learn about my father in a way that was so profound. And I sort of say my leg break was sort of the universe telling me to slow down and take time, and I was able to dedicate some time with my father during this time.
That's
and my
wonderful.
daughter actually did the cover art for his book, so fine artist right there, so family project. This is my niece, Nyla Stanford. She lives in New York City in Brooklyn. Another story about, oopsie, I'm changing my major. She went all the way through Seton Hall, and she was able to get her master's degree in experimental psychology. Psychology is my family business. My mother's a psychologist, her father's a psychologist, and she decided she wants to be a fashion stylist and a fashion writer. So this is Nyla. She's actually, I just snagged this from an article that she wrote for Vogue, talking about cashmere or knits or something, but this is hopefully inspiring to you guys. It's like she changed course, she decided this is what she wants, and she's having some success at it. I mean, she's struggling. I mean, it's New York, it's very expensive to be there, but she made a choice that her passion was fashion, and so she's living her best life right now, so we're really proud of her. This is just, you know, when you start going through your career, you have opportunities, and just like Professor Jay was able to say, could you come and talk to my students? You know, sometimes other opportunities present themselves where you're with other professionals and you can celebrate together. The one person of note that I'll point out, you might know her, that's Naturi Naughton. She was a star of Power, that show that 50 Cent used to do, but anyway. I never even watched the show.
Does anybody watch the show?
And I told her that. She was like, okay, at least you're honest. And hopefully you guys know this young lady. This is Elaine Welteroth. She used to be the editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue. She's a very good friend of mine, and she had written a book, if you hadn't seen it, and I was able to take my daughter to her book launch. So this is just us hanging out with friends and supporting each other, which I hope that you're building a network of. You're all going to do something one day, and so keep those contacts, because you'll see someone cross the finish line having success. You'll be like, remember when we were at school together? And you'll be connected, and you'll be able to leverage that and help each other out. And this is just one of those examples. Ooh, who knows who this is? I heard, yes. That's Miss J. Alexander of America's Next Top Model. This is just us hanging out in the streets at Pride in New York, and she's fun, and it was just one of those, I just threw this in there because I thought, you're fashion folk, you might know who she is. So anyway.
Wonderful. So now that we've got a little bit of Trenesa's really multifaceted life, one of the other things that she shared with me last night when we were out to dinner is that she is also taking an improvisational comedy class. Is that right?
You're telling all my business. Yes, I am. I signed up for this stand-up comedy class. I don't know if I'm funny. I just know that it's an outlet for me to do something that's not work and to do something that's not family. So whatever it is that interests you, the worst that it will be is that I'll know that I'm not funny or I don't like it, but just try things, try lots of things.
Well, now that we know a little bit about you today, let's take it back a little bit.
Okay.
Where are you from?
I am a native of Florida, born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida, and ran screaming from that place. Now that I go back, and maybe you guys will have this discovery, it's like the place that you're like, oh, I can't wait to not be here. And then as you get older, you're like, you have a different appreciation for it.
Sure.
So that's where I'm from, Florida.
And so you went to the University of Florida.
That's right, go Gators.
And what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to, this is why I couldn't be too mad at my daughter or my niece for sort of changing their course, because I wanted to be a bilingual correspondent. So my degree is in broadcast journalism. I had been accepted to Universidad de Salamanca, and I was going to be this fluent Spanish-speaking journalist going and chasing stories in Spanish-speaking places. Never did it, but that's what I thought I wanted to do. And so again, this is about, I'm an example of sort of, you think you want to go this way and you find another path.
But what did you learn in the process, and what skills did you get out of that particular path that you were able to bring with you to the path that you ultimately took?
Broadcast journalism is about being able to communicate, and so now I'm Chief Communications Officer of a large corporation, so there were definitely some applicable skills that I learned. And then the other piece of communications is I'm always dealing with the media. And so instead of being the reporter or the producer getting the news, I'm the conduit to give the news.
So from Florida, how did you get to New York?
Well, there's a little bit of Boston in the middle of that, but I had and you may have that favorite aunt or uncle that, they just, they show up for the family gatherings and they just seem like really interesting people. Well, my mom's sister, Aunt Kat, was the aunt that lived in Harlem in New York. And all of my life watching her grow up, I thought she was just so interesting. And then, now that I have lived in New York for many years, I understood those eccentricities and her sort of gruff nature, and I thought that was so cool. And so I always wanted to live in New York because of my Aunt Kat, and she would bring these fabulous gifts, and I later learned that she was getting them all from Canal Street. But thought she was rich, but now we know.
Now, obviously, you are the Chief Communications Officer of Hudson's Bay Company
Yes.
now, but you also spent 15 years in the beauty industry, and I think there's some people here that would probably like to hear about a little of that.
Are you guys into beauty? Anybody like beauty? I know you do. I spent more than 15 years, but I don't want to age myself. So I have had a long career in prestige beauty, and it's been fantastic. My last 14 years I spent at the Estee Lauder companies. I was a global communications executive there with a portfolio of beauty products, and I was responsible for 40 countries. And so it was a big job with a lot of, exposure, but beauty is my first love. But beauty and fashion, you can't separate them, can you? And so there was one moment when I was actually responsible for producing New York Fashion Week that Procter & Gamble was a sponsor. And so in my role, I was able to be at Fashion Week all the time, and we were back of the house, you know what back of the house is. And we were bringing in all of these influential people and stars and working with designers and makeup artists and fashion designers. It was a really great experience, and I hope that you'll all have some opportunity to be at a Paris or a London or a New York Fashion Week, because there's an energy that I know you'll instantly get.
Actually, a lot of our students participate in Fashion Week. A raise of hands of all the people that have gone to either New York or Paris Fashion Week. Yeah, we have several.
Ooh la la. Yes, all right. Well, then it's definitely a great experience. Even my niece Nyla, she is freelancing, just sort of showing up and styling smaller shows. But at least that energy just permeates even beyond Bryant Park, where they used to have Fashion Week.
So as I mentioned before, you're at Hudson's Bay Company, and you are the Chief Communications Officer. What does that even mean? What do you do?
Well, I think it's important, and you'll learn more as we're talking about sort of the company as a whole. The Hudson's Bay Company and HBC is a holding company, meaning it's the parent company for a lot of other individual companies. I'm really excited that I have some colleagues here from your local Saks Fifth Avenue. We have our general manager and associate general manager here. Would you guys
Please
wave?
stand up, please.
I think that you'll want to know Ann and Gerardo, because they're here in Richmond and they work for Saks. But Saks is the brick and mortar. Saks Fifth Avenue is a business. Saks.com is a business. Saks Off Fifth is a business. SaksOffFifth.com is a business. And then Hudson's Bay, which is the Canadian premium retailer, is a business, and they have a .com, and so forth and so on. So in my role as Chief Communications Officer, I have visibility over all of those separately operating companies, because we're a whole unit, but those businesses run separately. So I play a role in having visibility on the communications across all
and
of that.
And what does a typical day look like for you as the Chief Communications Officer?
It depends on my mood. But most days it's like, I wake up, I sleep with my phone. It's not a good thing, but because I'm a communications person, I have to be on top of the news. Want to see if I'm getting a text from our big boss, Richard Baker, or if there's something that broke in the news that's related to any of our portfolio companies. And I have multiple meetings, gathering information, sending out communications about things that we're trying to tell stories about. You'll see some of those examples today. And we have a large, robust portfolio of real estate. And so a large part of my job is working with our development team so that we can really engage with the communities where we're building out these developments and helping them to understand that we're not the big bad developer. We are very invested in your community, and we want to make sure that this idea of development that we're proposing is something that you can not only accept, but actually be excited about.
Now, you are on the leadership team for Hudson's Bay.
Correct.
You are one of 3 women who are on the leadership team, and you are the only person of color, if I'm not mistaken, on that team. How is that dynamic, and how do you navigate all of those facts?
Well, I mean, it's Happy Women's History Month. It's great that we have diversity in the executive suite. We have diversity on the front line of our regional leadership. I think that you have to bring your whole self to work, but when you bring your whole self to work, you also have to be aware of sort of the variables that you'll have to deal with. And so I think being a woman, there's always something that, there's that added layer of consideration. There's often, even in beauty, so many men in leadership. And it's like, but it's beauty. You think there'd be more women. But most of my bosses were men when I was even in the beauty industry. A large portion of our C-suite are men, and we're talking about, it's not just fashion, it's not just retail, but it's also development. Development is extra masculine-centric. When you think about the builders, the people who think about construction and all of that. So I think you bring your whole self and you navigate. I mean, that's all you can do. And if that self happens to be a person of color, that's just an added layer of how you navigate, and that's you'll fine tune, you'll build the muscle, but it's easier for you to be authentic, and then you don't feel like you're trying to catch up with yourself. This is who I am. I remember many years ago when I was leaving a public relations firm that I was working in, and the woman who ran it, her name is Marina Marsh, she's a mentor to me to this day. I said, oh, Estee Lauder Companies is hiring me. They want me to come over and run some of their brands for communications. And she said, just make sure that you bring them all of Trenesa. And that sounds really simple, but I'll tell you what I did just to make sure that I sort of honored that instruction. I had to meet with William Lauder, who's one of the Lauders, and he was my final interview. And at the time, I was wearing my hair in an afro. I still do sometimes, but I'm doing braids right now. Deal with it. And I had an afro, and I was at this cosmetic executive women's luncheon, which is in the Waldorf Astoria. It's this big thing that's like the Oscars of the beauty industry. And I had this final interview, so I tipped out, and I went to freshen up, and I made sure that my afro was even bigger for that interview. So that was my own way of saying, this is what you get. You're gonna get a black woman with an afro. And I remember having that final interview, and you guys will have some experience with interviews. And it felt good, but I didn't know. And then by the time I got home, I got the call that I got the job. And that to me was sort of an example of me sort of bringing my whole self. I wasn't trying to force fit. I wasn't trying to be something I'm not. So if you are whoever you are, whatever your pronouns are, whatever you look like, I mean, you gotta be professional, you gotta be cute, but you gotta be yourself. And however you display that, I think that's just gonna be a shorthand for you moving forward and towards your success.
Now, that's how you juggle things at work, but how do you balance that out with your family? Is it all work and no play for Trenesa, or is there some work-life balance there? Especially being in the position that you're in.
I think that, well, there's a lot of work, but there's also an earnest intention for me to balance that. And so the work's not gonna stop just because you say work-life balance. You just have to figure out how to navigate that. And, you know, I have, you know, when my daughter was getting ready to leave high school and getting ready to start searching universities, I was able to take the decision to leave the Estee Lauder Companies and be home with her and help her to go on her college tours and help her to figure things out. And quite honestly, I had been raising my children via text because I told you I had 40 countries I was responsible for. So it was just like, yeah, do this, watch laundry, do this thing. You know, I was always gone. I had actually had pages added to my passport. That's how often I was gone. So it was really important for me to sort of make up for lost time when she was getting ready to have such a milestone moment. And now I'm kind of in that place now with my son. He's getting ready to have this graduating from high school moment. So I think you just, no one's gonna pump the brakes for you. You have to make sure that you do it for yourself. And sometimes that sort of is up to you in saying, you know, you gotta set some guardrails. It's like, I'm a hard worker, I'm never gonna miss a deadline, but there's some things that you just won't do. So you have to set a precedent. You know, because if you're the person that's there at 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night, then that boss is going to expect that to be you. But if you're that person that could be there at 8 and stay till 5:30 or 6 o'clock and get it all done, then that boss is like, I can count on that person to be effective and meet the deadlines, but not necessarily be the person that's sleeping in the office. So you can control that a little bit, but you're all young and you're all gonna be on your first job. So what I say is you gotta give it all at the beginning. And as you grow in your career, you'll be able to sort of set those guardrails and make sure that, you know, I'm fully in, I'm all in, but I also have some other priorities. And then your bosses and supervisors will understand that and they won't doubt that they're gonna get things done.
Now, you've talked about your daughter who is a Gen Zer, like everyone here, or most everyone here, I should say. What are some of the things that you have learned from her in this process? And what are some things that you may have shared with her that she didn't know up to now?
She is an artist, and she's very expressive. She is someone that, what I just said, sort of bring your full self and be authentic, I've said those same things to my daughter. So it's really been a joy for me to see her really exercise that. Almost annoyingly so, because she is kind of a mini-me in a way that is frustrating. But I love her and she's doing that. But I've learned from her that when she made that decision, and it was when everyone, actually today I think is the actual 4-year anniversary of the official day of the pandemic, the 13th, or something like that, when we locked down. So it's been 4 years since all that madness happened.
That's right.
Like literally right now. And during that time, she was able to be locked up with us and
With her family.
yes, our family. But you know, it's close, even though we had the space, but it was just sort of confined. But she found a way to sort of evolve herself. And that's when she made the decision that she didn't want to do what I do, that she wanted to be an artist. And so she became prolific, and she was art. She just pulled out these pieces and everything was happening. She was producing music and just really, and I learned from her that, you know, it's okay to shift and to pursue the things that make you happy. And sometimes you feel things make you feel obligated, and you're like, oh God, I promise, or my parents expect me to do that. But I really learned from her in that moment that, you know, it's okay to sort of pursue what you want, even if it's gonna be uncomfortable. Because trust me, having a conversation with your parents about having a year under your belt at another school in another state and having another major, you know what that means. None of those credits transferred. But that was important for her to make sure that she established and started off pursuing the thing that she was most passionate about.
Wonderful. So we're going to give Trenesa a little bit of a break so she can have some water if she likes. And we would like to ask Professor Diego and Professor Sellers to take some questions. I hope you guys have some questions for Trenesa. Lights are coming up a little bit. Raise your hand. Here, we have a question there, and we have a question up in the midway. So when you ask your question, Onyx, state your name, and then ask Trenesa your question.
Onyx.
Yes, hi. Oh, wow, hi. I'm Onyx. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming out today and talking to us. So my main question is how being a woman and how being a woman of color has affected your life, as well as just like your introduction today. You were a CCE, right? So why was that not the first thing that you said? Like you were introduced as a mom, a daughter, and before you were like positioned. Like I feel like that was like the main reason we came out today. And I think it was interesting that that was not the first thing that you were introduced as. So I was just wondering if you've faced that a lot. And also Mr. Jefferson was like, how do you balance it all? Mm-hmm. But like, have you ever struggled like with discrimination? Like, why would you wouldn't ask a man that, or usually?
That's a great question, Onyx. What are you doing with your hair? It's cute. I can't see.
What do you mean?
Ah.
It's chopped up, sorry.
All right, it's cute.
Thank
well, I like that introduction because you are always a whole person, whatever you're doing. Your job is what you do to keep the lights on and buy shoes. It's not who you are. And one of the things as a woman of color, a black woman, when I started my career in beauty, you're also young, but there was a time where you'd be hard-pressed to find someone that looked like me that was also positioned as someone of beauty. If you read a magazine, you didn't see it. You know, the idea of beauty was very European-centric. And early in my career, I was able to work on CoverGirl. And CoverGirl was literally Christy Brinkley. She was the icon of what beauty was and for that brand. And I was charged to make that brand relevant to people of color. And so, you know, the introduction is spot on because I'm Trenesa, the daughter, the wife, the mother, the friend, before I'm Trenesa the executive. I can't be Trenesa the executive without all of that experience of being a whole person. So thank you for that. I'm not my job title. I'm Trenesa. It's going to be difficult. It may be less difficult. I hope that in my career I've been able to put my foot in the door for people that look like me to be in these spaces that may have underrepresentation. Beauty was difficult because beauty is subjective. And the leaders of beauty were saying beauty is blue eyes and blonde and fair skin. It wasn't necessarily brown skin and a thicker lips and different hair texture. And so I brought that experience of wanting desperately to make sure that my beauty and all of your beauty in its various spectrums were represented. And it doesn't mean that you won't run into challenges, but you know that dumb saying of getting a seat at the table? It's important, because if someone's making a decision about your fashion collection, the cosmetic palettes of a foundation, and if someone isn't representative there, you might get left out. So it's really important I leveraged my being considered other to be representative for those who were being left out of whatever decisions that were being made. So I thank you for that question. It's not always easy, but it's worth it. You're welcome.
Let's take another question.
Hi, I'm Dixie. I'm a senior in fashion merchandising. And my question is, since there's so many seniors here waiting to graduate, do you have any advice for seniors who are trying to get their foot in the door?
Okay, you're Dixie?
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
The advice is network and be willing to work hard. My first job was as a storm chaser for the Red Cross. I made no money, but it was such a rich experience and it was so rewarding. I would literally, if there was a flood or a fire or even unfortunately, a bombing, I was a part of the rapid response team that they would send to all these different places. And that experience really prepared me for sort of being in the room of swirling crisis and saying, it's not a flood, it's not a fire, it's just we're running low on a certain shade of lipstick. Just be ready to work hard and also prepare yourself to not necessarily make a lot of money out the gate. It'll come. If you're good, it will come. But also leverage your network. You know, that's why you guys should know each other, because somebody in this room is going to make it big, really big. And you'll be able to see them on LinkedIn. I hope you guys are starting to use LinkedIn. I find that is an effective tool for professional outreach. But the advice for you is just prepare yourself to maybe not make a lot of money, especially if you're in this industry, and really work your network.
I want to piggyback off of your network advice. Trenesa was not originally scheduled to be here today. I had a former colleague turned friend, who got the invitation to be with us today. And she got this wonderful opportunity to work out of the country 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, she's still there.
3 weeks ago. And she called to tell me that she wasn't going to be able to make it. And I said, but what about me? And she said, oh, call my friend Trenesa, she'll do it for you. Now, we didn't know each other, but we had this mutual friend, right? And she put me in touch with Trenesa. I called her, I told her what we were doing, and how it would be just a fantastic opportunity for all of you to meet her. And without hesitation, you see where she is today. So that's the power of your network. And all of you you may not think you have a network, but you have a network because you have all your professors, you have all of your friends that are in the classes with you. Those people are going to be your current network, but also your future network as they go to different companies and they're in different roles. You'll be able to hopefully tap into them for different things as well. So, thank you. So I just want to, give an example of how powerful your network can be.
I'm sloppy seconds.
I didn't mean it that way. We're absolutely thrilled to have you here, so thank you. Do we have any other questions? Here we have one right here.
Can I ask mine? Perfect. Hi, Trenesa.
Hi.
I'm Keely Buchanan. Nice to meet you. Speaking of LinkedIn, I did already request you if you want to connect. I had a question. As a Black woman in a position of leadership, because you are very high in leadership, has there ever been a time where you face adversity or tension in a situation?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. it's a fast-paced industry. It's, you know, you have to train yourself to be professional, not take things personally. I mean, we all bring our biases to work. We all have past experiences. But the one thing that we can't do is make assumptions. You know what they say about assumptions? It makes an ass out of you and me. So I think that we really have to balance sort of being in that real moment of questioning, like, are you saying this to me because you're being biased, or are you just treating me as an equal and we're just having a disagreement? There's really, that is one layer. Even as a woman, even if you're not a woman of color, you'll be in an environment where you'll have to assess, is this just two colleagues having a disagreement, or is this a male colleague having a disagreement or saying things to me in a certain way because I'm a woman or because I'm a black woman? You'll always do this. But my little trick, when I have those moments of feeling it's difficult, is I do, what did I say last night? A facial muscular assessment. Learn this. Never cry at work, by the way. You just...
Or at school.
Figure out, and you just say to yourself, what's my face doing? And it's really giving you a moment to just figure out, am I frowning, am I scowling, are my eyes squinting, whatever it is, but you'll just have that quiet conversation with your body language, because you don't want to escalate a situation. And I find that being in this package, you ever heard the term angry black woman? It's frustrating, but that's a bias. And I have to work against that sometimes. So I've watched colleagues where they can go crazy and scream and they can get away with it. But if I were to do that, I don't know if that would go over so well. Unfortunately, I don't have that same privilege. But just the training yourself, giving people the benefit of the doubt, and never shying away from pulling that person aside and saying, I just want to make sure I understand. You know, because sometimes people sort of feed off of the energy of a crowd or witnesses, but you'll get a very different person when you're the bigger person and says, you know what, when you get a chance, let's just have a coffee, let's take a walk, let's meet in the conference room. And you'll find that you may make a new friend, and even better, an ally in those moments. So yes, I have. The short answer is yes, I've dealt with that. You'll know how to deal with it when it happens, but the first thing is calm yourself. Don't make that assumption, because you don't know what happened to them. You never know what happens to people before they get to work. You don't know what's going on in someone's personal life, and so all of that factors into sort of the exchange that you may have with them. But I wish I could say it won't happen, but it will likely happen. Sorry.
So you'll have a chance to ask more questions as we go along, but we're going to continue now, and we'd love for you to tell us a little bit about Hudson's Bay Company. Hudson's Bay Company is the parent company of all of these companies. HBC is the acronym for Hudson's Bay Company. Hudson's Bay Company is 353 years old, and it was chartered by the monarch in England when they sent folk over to what is now known as Canada. In fact, Hudson's Bay Company is older than the country of Canada, if you can wrap your brain around that. But there were some people there when the folks that work for Hudson's Bay Company arrived there, and we'll talk more about that as well. But this is just some of the brands, and you have, you know, my colleagues here, your local Saks Fifth Avenue executives here, and lots of other brands as a part of the company. So what level of influence does a holding company have over the portfolio divisions?
Really, there's a level of autonomy that even for me, coming from a public company, which was the Estee Lauder companies, to the Hudson's Bay Company, which is private. I mean, every company runs differently, but our leadership really wants these brands to have a level of autonomy to run their businesses. But because it all ladders up to the bigger company, and because what one company does could have implications on another company, that's where the holding leadership has sort of, you know, just making sure all the ducks are aligned, everything's fine. But Saks.com runs very separately and differently from Saks Fifth Avenue.
Saks off Fifth is a whole other company and runs very differently. There's connective tissue because we're all a part of the same company, but they're run very separately.
Now, one of your businesses is Streetworks Development.
Yes, yes.
And I would love for you to tell us a little bit about that particular company, because it's not really a retail company at all.
No, and it has nothing to do with fashion. But what it is that the Streetworks Development is a real estate development company. Basically, it imagines what something will be. It builds places and spaces. And the Hudson's Bay Company, HBC, has about 42 million square feet of commercial real estate. Every place that has a retail entity is real estate that the company owns and operates. And as you all know, especially generationally, the way we shop is very different from the way we shopped even 20 years ago. So what that means for us as a company is that all of those brick and mortar retail spaces, some of them have gone away, but we still have property. And Streetworks Development was acquired to help us to reimagine, what do we do with that property now? And there certainly will be a retail element part of it. There will be a residential part of it potentially. There will be food and beverage part of it potentially. But all of that property that's a part of the Hudson's Bay Company needs to be redeveloped. And so that's where we are with Streetworks. They really have brought that expertise. So they have big projects that they did prior to acquisition in Detroit and on the East Coast and the West Coast in various bedroom communities. And so where we have a footprint of formerly some store, we still have that property, and they help us to imagine what that is.
So these are examples of some of the projects that Streetworks Development has undertaken. Can you take us through the next couple of slides?
Yeah, this is just an example. They built the stadium in the middle of downtown Detroit. And that's sort of like a big scale commercial idea. But then on the next slide, you'll see, I think it was, Blueback Square, which is out in Connecticut. And it's a bedroom community where they took property that was underutilized and they evolved it to be really a thriving part of that community. If any of you know anything about Connecticut or West Hartford, that's like a go-to, and it's sort of place making is really, and places that used to be sort of hard surface parking lots are now places where people can get a croissant and do some yoga. So it's sort of where you live, where you work, and where you play, and it's just a reimagined development.
Now, when we were talking prior to being here today, you were telling me about a project that's near and dear to your heart. It's called It Is Visible.
Yes.
And share with the students what It Is Visible is all about.
Well, as I said, the Hudson's Bay Company is 353 years old, and it's older than the country of Canada. And when the pioneers traveled there to source things to sell, and those outposts in Canada, there were people already there. There were First Nations there. And one of our properties in Winnipeg is a former Bay store. The Bay is the premier retail store of all of Canada. That's sort of like Canada and the Bay are just like peanut butter and jelly. This particular location, we were closing in Winnipeg. And there is a group of First Nation leadership, the Southern Chiefs. They said, what are you going to do with that building? And we said, I don't know. They said, well, we'd like to have it. And so as a part of this really robust Truth and Reconciliation, which is led by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, we were able to say, we will give this property to you. And in return, the First Nations gave us beaver pelts and deerskin like they would have back in those days. And so it's being thought of as sort of the most illustrative example of reconciliation in corporate history. And so we're really proud of that, and I was really proud to be a part of that, really proud for Richard Baker, the owner and CEO of our company, to be a part of that, to have this moment where we give land back to those people that are in that region, those First Nations. And in return, it was showing that we understood that our history is pretty complex, and that's an understatement. But it's the first step, and it's really well received. And that's my boyfriend, Justin Trudeau.
Wonderful. So we are going to break again for some more questions from you.
I see a lady. I see two ladies. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Ask the question.
Hi, my name is Lily. Sorry about that. I wanted to return to your, when you were speaking about networking. I have been obviously getting introduced to networking. How would you respond theoretically to a student reaching out for networking? To network with you specifically, because you are in a very high position and networking is kind of it's hard to do. So
are you saying, are you on LinkedIn? What's your name again?
Lily.
Lily. Hi,
Yes.
Lily. Are you on LinkedIn?
Yes.
And are you a senior?
No.
Okay. I've had students, if you know anything about LinkedIn, you get the option of whether you want to accept the connections. And so I say, when you're reaching out, you know how you can just ask to connect, and then they also give you the option, ask to connect and write a note? Always write the note. I don't know who you are. I want to know why you think we should be connected. I want to know why you think and how you think you could benefit from our connection. The cold call doesn't always work, but it could be a cold call with some context, then that could work. So if you, Lily, were to reach out to me and say, hey, remember you did that thing, and study who I'm connected to. And you can say, oh, I know you know this person, and I'm really trying to get to this person because you know them. And I'm going to be really honest, there are a lot of people that I'm connected to. I don't even know how I met them or why we're connected. So just because they're in my LinkedIn doesn't mean that we're BFFs, and probably I don't know them from really that well. But again, whenever someone asks to connect to me, I'm like, well, who do you know that I know? And then why should we be connected? So make sure that when you're asking for that you use that little note feature so that you can build some relevance for me.
Okay, we have a question, I think, up there, and then we'll get to you, okay?
Hi, I'm Winter. I'm a fashion merchandising student. And I know you said you had a mentor. Other than the advice about being authentically yourself, what's some other advice she's giving you? And do you feel like it's more important for a mentor to be someone that looks like you or someone that's in the position you want to be in?
Winter?
Yes.
Is that your name?
Yes.
Mentor shouldn't be singular for any of us. It should be a spectrum. You know, I've got the mentor that looks like me. I have the mentor that was the former boss. I have the mentor that's the man. I have the mentor that does a completely different career path than me. Spice it up, mix it up, because you'll be able to leverage their insights for wherever you are in your career and in your life. So it's not just about having that hero singular person. It's about having sort of your own board of directors, if you will. And these are the people that you can look to help you at whatever phase you are in your life. I think that the authentic piece is, I lean into that because that opens the door for everything else. If I'm being authentic, that means I am a hard worker. I am trustworthy. I am creative. I am all of the things that I need to bring to the job. So that really is a foundational sort of words of advice that I can give you, because you have to decide what that means for you when you're saying you're being your full self, your authentic self. That's the Trenesa. That, is more of a evening person. I'm not a morning person, all of those things, and that plays into your career path, So you're the person that maybe get there in the office and you're the last one to arrive, but you are more than happy to be the person that works through lunch and works late. And, again, setting up those guardrails is sort of like who you are when you bring yourself to work, and setting those precedents of sort of what they can expect from you. But I think that mentors should never be singular. It should be full-faceted, a spectrum, so that you can have that board of directors, your own personal board of directors.
So that I know we're going to get to you, but I just wanted to ask, now that the workplace is changing a lot, and not everybody's physically at work, how do you go about developing those mentors when in fact there is that personal interaction is not there as much as it used to be?
That's a hard question because this whole not being in the office is very new, and I think if you happen to find a job that gives you the flexibility to work remotely, there has to be some outlet for you to collaborate. There has to be some opportunity. You may not physically be there, but you have to be able to sort of identify those moments where you can work with someone. And so if it's a remote situation and you're in San Francisco and they're in Detroit and your colleagues, you're just gonna have to carve out that time so that you can build that relationship with them. But this is a new world, and I think even at our company, we're still trying to navigate, how do you, keep that collaborative team building and have people that are not in the office at all or in the office 2 or 3 days a week. So it's difficult, but I think you're gonna have to work that much harder to build those relationships if you are in a remote situation. You're gonna have to go above and beyond.
Wonderful. Ms. Diego, there's a question right there on the end. We're coming right here.
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm a sophomore in the fashion merchandising program. I was just wondering, as far as networking goes, how do you recommend staying in touch with people? Because that's something I kind of don't super well know how to navigate. Once you make that initial connection, how do you years down the road make sure that you maintain that relationship?
So one thing that I like to do, and again, I don't work for LinkedIn clearly, but I do think it's an effective tool. I say spend more time on LinkedIn and less time on TikTok, especially at this phase of your life. And the thing that I like to do is if you see something pop up in their feed, like they had a meeting or they're in an article or they did some, just saying you saw them and you recognize that they had a milestone moment or they were written up or you saw that they posted that they got a new job. Those are the moments when it makes sense to sort of say, I want to reach out to this person. You don't want to stalk people and be creepy. But when someone's just sort of like, I got a promotion, I'm the associate, such and such and such, and you see them and you don't really have a relationship with them, but you can actually say, congratulations. And then they'll either say thanks because they've got 100 congratulations, or they'll remember you and they'll spark that conversation up. But you're gonna have to be actively paying attention to your network to see when there's an appropriate moment for you to reach out to them. And sometimes it's just as dumb as, oh, I see it's your birthday, and you send them a note. I stay in touch with people, not because I need something from them, but I genuinely feel like, if someone's having a milestone moment or doing something great in their career, when you sort of amass all of those kudos, it's a good feeling. And I'd like to be a part of that chorus of celebrating. And then that could be an inlet for you to say, oh, and by the way, whatever that may be. Of course, Julia.
So we're gonna move on a little bit and talk about Saks Fifth Avenue, which is the marquee brand, one of the marquee brands of Hudson's Bay Company. We introduced you to a couple of regional executives from Saks that are here with us today, but I also want to acknowledge one of your fellow students who works at Saks, Jonah Smith. If you would just stand up and let everybody see you.
Oh, the famous Jonah.
Absolutely. Is there anyone else that I've missed that's at Saks right now?
You work at Saks?
You do?
You did. What's your name? Takira. Thank
Wonderful,
you. Thanks
Takira.
for being part of the fam.
Do you know these folks sitting right in front of you? You do? Perfect. Perfect.
Wow, that's high
Wonderful.
marks from the general manager of the region. Come on, that's doing something right.
That's absolutely wonderful. So, Trenesa, when I was doing my research guys, on Saks Fifth Avenue, I learned something that I did not know, which was Saks originally started in Washington, D.C., which is not that far from here, of course, and then moved to New York and opened the flagship store in New York in 1924. Now, on the West Coast, you guys have a nice story as well, in the form of your Beverly Hills original store.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that story.
We have some photos that we'll show you later, but we were able to, just a few weeks ago, we were able to take the Saks Fifth Avenue store that's on Wilshire Boulevard in Beverly Hills and move it into what was the Barney's footprint. And the building that we moved out of is the original women's store, but the architect was Paul R. Williams. Something that's really exciting for me, talking about being a person of color in this space where there's underrepresentation. Paul R. Williams is known as the architect to the stars during the 40s and 50s. And he has this it's inspiring, but it's also frustrating story. When you think about him being a black man, dealing with very rich, posh people in that time, he would have to do drawings and schematics and renderings for, he's literally designing their homes, but because he's a black man, he can't sit next to his often white clients. So he has this distinction of being an architect that can draw upside down. So he could do all of his work with his customers sitting across from him, and he would do it all upside down. Now, that's genius, but it's also like, what? That's nuts. You trust him enough to build your home, but he can't sit next to you to show you his work? Whatever. But anyway, we have one of his buildings. In fact, the women's store in Beverly Hills is a Paul R. Williams. And so as we're talking about Remember Streetworks development and 42 million square feet, that is a part of our portfolio of commercial real estate. So as we moved our store into another building, we are going to get a historic recognition for that building. We're going to honor it. We're going to build in and around that, but we'll always be very much grateful to Paul R. Williams. And for me and my place and my package, I'm so proud that our company has prioritized that. So you'll hear more about that later.
That's wonderful. And so recently you also have opened a new store in Beverly Hills, and this is some of the press that you've gotten.
They love us.
For
yes,
that particular
okay.
opening. Now, I have a little bit of a beef with you, though.
Oh, God.
Which is,
Gerardo,
these are
what is
the
he gonna say?
invitations that went out, and I did not get one.
Well, sorry. Next time. Next store.
Next store?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that opening and the ribbon cutting ceremonies.
Sure. It's a beautiful, and Ann and Gerardo can tell you more about it. Have you guys gone out there yet?
I have not.
You gotta go.
We've seen a lot of pictures and videos, and it's really beautiful.
It's amazing. It's an immersive luxury retail experience. It's raised the bar on what that means. And as a part of it being a new store, we have obviously the ribbon cutting, and we had the mayor of Beverly Hills, and we had, the general manager, Bo Kim, of the Beverly Hills store, and a lot of our other executives there. And then in the other picture, the new mayor of Beverly Hills that's coming in, and the development team, because remember, we have all of that property in and around the Beverly Hills store, and again, we're going to reimagine that. What can it be? And so that's an exciting opportunity for us to sort of see that as the first phase of kicking off this development of 9600 Wilshire. So inside the store, you'll see this staircase, which is iconic. And then we have these private suites with where you can go in, and they'll fill the room with the things that you're interested in trying and hopefully buying. And even if you're not in a private suite, one of the things that I found really kind of fun was that there's a QR code on every floor. And if you use that code, you can order a little snack or a little drink on any floor in the store. So it's kind of just like the next level of retail and luxury. And so if you find yourself out on the West Coast, even if you don't want to buy anything, just go in there because the store is gorgeous.
So Trenesa said the word luxury, and I'm going to make a shameless plug for our luxury program. We've got 2 seats available. So if any of you are interested, I would highly recommend that you sign up. I've been hounding her about getting us into Saks Fifth Avenue, New York, because this program is 4 weeks, 1 week here in Richmond, 2 weeks in New York, and the last week in Richmond. And we'll be coming to Saks, right?
Yes. we will try to make that happen for sure.
Wonderful. So again, no pressure, right? Think about the luxury program, and if you are interested, either let myself know or Ms. Cook know, and we would love to give you more information about it. Moving on a little bit, in terms of the opening in California, obviously there are a lot of celebrities that were part of this whole celebration, and these are some of the people that showed up and showed out. Meantime, oh, go ahead.
It's just a red carpet moment. I mean, we want to celebrate. That's a huge milestone for us to sort of take a store that's been there for many years and move it, and then knowing that we have a vision for what else we want to do in that area. It was a great moment for us to sort of raise awareness and celebrate.
Meantime, in New York, there is another collaboration that's happening. With Lucid, the electric car company, and also with Dior. And we're going to talk about both of those, but tell us about the Lucid collaboration first.
Lucid is a luxury car, an electric car. I don't know if you know anything. I don't drive. I don't care. Even though I'm in that picture, I was just posing. That car is a luxury car. Saks Fifth Avenue is a luxury retailer. And so like meets like. And so when you're talking about promotion and collaboration and like-mindedness of the two, it made a lot of sense for us to partner with Lucid. That particular car there is called the Lucid Sapphire. And now when I tell you how much this car costs, because I have a daughter and that's your age, she will roll her eyes and spit at it because it just seems ridiculous. But it's a $230,000 car. And, you know, she's like, ugh, capitalism. And so I get it. But it is called the Lucid Sapphire, and we went through a lot of effort to crane lift that car into the vault, which is what we call the area where all of the fine jewelry and watches are sold. So the Sapphire car is with the other sapphires that we sell, and we have this gorgeous rim cool house escalator, the designer and architect, and so it was a huge feat for us to even take the risk to do it, but it paid off and it was exciting. And then now there's some other Saks Fifth Avenues across North America where you have a less expensive version of the car. It's called the Sapphire Air, it's still ridiculously priced, and there's still someone who doesn't care to drive, but it's really like-minded collaboration, which you'll find will be opportunities in this world where you just sort of share the spotlight with a brand that makes sense, and this made sense to us.
And I understand they actually got a couple of car sales from this collaboration, is that right?
I don't know who's buying them, but somebody's buying them, yes.
Wonderful. And here's some of the press shots from that particular event. This past Christmas, you had an historic collaboration with Dior, and we'd love for you to tell us about that as well.
Wasn't that amazingly exciting? Listen, we're on Fifth Avenue, and the location of the Saks Fifth Avenue store is literally across the street from the Rockefeller Center where the famous Christmas tree is. And right on the corner of us is St. Patrick's Cathedral. So there's this really interesting sort of tourist-driven kind of area where we are. So we're always trying to think of ways to bring people during the holidays. And you'll know from when you start working in retail, that fourth quarter is really important because that's like holiday and you get a lot of sales during that time. So again, you want to generate traffic to drive them. And so this particular partnership with Dior, they'd not sold on Saks.com before. So they had a pop-up installation. And so this was their opportunity to say, hello, we're available here through Saks. And they were able to design like one of the best holiday windows that we've seen in a long time. And not to besmirch any other holiday windows, but this was like the best show in town. and it'll be hard to beat. And you guys saw the video earlier, and we had fireworks and fanfare, and even Jennifer Lawrence gave us a little bit of a flashy flash with a wardrobe malfunction, which she also gave us additional unexpected press. But it was a big deal. It was really exciting, and we'll see what we can do next year. Gerard, do you have any ideas? What do they have planned?
Wonderful. Well, we want to give you one more opportunity to ask questions before Trenesa has to leave and catch a plane this afternoon.
Wow.
So we're going to wrap things up, but let's take a few more questions before we do. Let's see. Where's the mic?
Hi.
Oh.
No, student first. Go, no.
Lonnie, and then Ms. Guthrie, and then I saw a hand over here. Diana, and...
I'll go after.
Okay.
Okay.
And then we have a hand there. Go ahead. Lonnie, you have a question?
Okay, hello, my name is Kalani, and I'm a fashion merchandising major. I wrote down my question because my brain goes all over the place.
I like the way you do. That's nice.
So this question comes from a forecasting project I did, and I asked myself, how do you express authenticity and duplicity? How do you stay true to you in a world full of duplicity? And what I mean by that is the ideals of what others may see you as in a world full of trends.
Wow, really? Really? Okay. How do you, duplicity? Well, no one in this room is the same. Everyone has their own journey, their own experience. So you're really unique in and of yourself without any of your work experience, your college experience, that whatever project you were working experience. And that's why really tapping into yourself is going to help you with the duplicity. Because I also say, there's fashionable people, there's stylish people. Some people buy uniforms, and even if they're very expensive uniforms. In fact, they're all Gucci'd out. They're all, Yves Saint Laurent out, Or someone's shopping high, shopping low, shopping vintage at the thrift store. That all works into sort of breaking the mold of what could be seeming duplicitous. Because I could take these Gucci shoes, which hurt, by the way, but this dress is middle range, it's Reese, And I have other things where I'll shop at a store. My daughter loves thrifting, and she's trying to get me to. I'm not so into it, by the way. But I'm a germphobe, so I'm just, But there's I don't know what the straight answer is, but you already have all of the ingredients to make sure that the sameness that you're trying to fight against, it's hard for that to be if you just allow yourself to fully express who you are. Because you can be duplicitous, you can be uniform, and you can also tap into what makes you unique and own it in a way that breaks the mold. And I hope that helps, because there is a sameness that we're all seeing, but when I look at this group, and I don't know what you all are doing here at this university, but it's really inspiring to see how expressive you are just in how you all present physically. You're very unique, and I hope you take that along with your style, your creativity, and your approach to tackling things. And I hope that helps you to feel that you're breaking through.
Ms. Guthrie.
Thank you.
Can you just ask your question? Is it hard? If it's hard, no.
Well, I'm very curious, how you cultivated that relationship to get Dior to commit to you guys? Like, what was that path?
I can't give you I'm not on the front line of that collaboration, so I don't know, but we are a temple of luxury, and that's where, all the other luxury brands are there, but some luxury brands take the decision to sort of be ultra exclusive, but there was a point in time where Dior felt like this was the right time for them, and it was the right vehicle for them to do it. But the inner workings of how they made that heavy lift, I'll have to get back to you on sort of the specificity of it, because I wasn't on the front line. Because remember, we have multiple companies, and they're all running. And I'm not sitting in the boardroom or in the conference room with all of those teams that are doing this. I have visibility over it all, and oftentimes I just see it when it's close to the end of the finish line, because there are teams that are doing all of those things for all of those various companies. But if you really want to know, I can find out for you later.
I think it down the road make a fantastic case study for fashion people to study. Anyway, next question is, speaking of networks, do you know Bradford Knight when you were at Estee Lauder?
What was his, do you know how big that company is?
Oh, no, never mind. He went to the Olympics and did Katie Couric's makeup. I just want to know if you guys crossed.
No, is he in my LinkedIn though?
I don't know, I have to look.
Look and see.
It's one of ours, though.
Okay. Well, tell me his name again.
Bradford Knight.
Bradford Knight. What a great name.
I know.
Yeah.
He was at MAC for a long time.
He was going to do that or be on a soap opera.
We have some other questions. Diana, there we go.
Hello, I'm Diana. I'm a fashion merchandising senior. So my question was, at the beginning of your career, how did you leverage your experience to establish credibility, and how did you create opportunities from yourself for that?
Establishing credibility in my career?
I mean more so at the beginning of your career. How did you leverage the experiences that you had when you began to establish credibility?
Because they were mine. I mean, that's all you can do. It's all you can do, like Jonah. He's already standing up and saying, I went to Paris and I work at Saks. I mean, all you can do is build your repertoire of experience, and then that's the thing that you'll take to the next opportunity, which is why I'm really serious when I say manage your expectations about that first job, because that first job starts exactly what you're talking about, is giving you the content that you'll need to sell yourself to get to the next level. And, you know, I don't know if any of you want to work in nonprofit, but I did. And what that did for me was it gave me exposure to work in a lot of different functions. I wasn't a one-trick pony. I had to do this, this, and this because it's nonprofit and they had smaller staff. And then because it was nonprofit, you actually got a chance to do more things. So this will be applicable to you if you go to a smaller brand or a smaller company where there are fewer people. Raise your hand and ask to do it, because to your point, the more you can say you've done, it's now yours, and then that's how you'll merchandise and market yourself for the next gig. Does that help? Okay. I can. Oh.
Okay, I'm Olivia.
Olivia.
And I was just wondering, like, I know most of us in this room probably, or I know I do, we all want to go to New York, work in New York, but I was wondering, in your experience in the fashion industry, how much does location matter to success and just everything?
Okay. New York's the dream. I get it. But do you want to be a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond? And I'm telling you, there's no wrong answer and there's no right answer. It's where you feel like you're being able to have the experience in your career that means something to you. Because New York can be tough. New York can be highly competitive. And you can find a rich experience in another market that's not New York that will prepare you, to her point, of building that story in a smaller market so that when you do want to go New York, you can leverage that and say you did that. Because the experience is the experience. It doesn't matter if it was small or large. It's what you've been able to accomplish in your function, in your role, in your job. But be careful running off to New York. You're welcome to come, but also come prepared to get the low-paying job, work really hard, and to have a very competitive environment. And I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm also encouraging you to look for other ways to do the things that you're learning to do here in other markets, in other places, at smaller companies and smaller, because you'll be able to take that great experience and use it to run off to New York or to LA or to Paris or Milan or wherever you're sort of fantasizing that you want to take your career. But I'm here to manage expectations.
Absolutely.
Or be Debbie Downer.
Absolutely. We have a question here.
Hi, I'm Abby. I was hoping you could share a little bit more about your education and how that contributed to where you are today, and also how your path may have veered away from where you originally thought you would end up when you started your education?
I have a degree in communications, and so I do communications every day. I hope I'm doing an effective job of communicating to you in this moment. So that education I learned are things that I'm tapping into. The career path versus the education are different. And so whatever you all are studying, you're learning tools that are going to be applicable across any various career path. So don't chuck it out. It's going to be useful to you. So I can say that even now that I have a degree in broadcast journalism, I've never sat at a news anchor desk and said, good morning or good evening and welcome and breaking news. I've never had that experience, but I use the things that I learned when I was in college, and I apply it pretty much every day. So it's very useful. And so the path of not being the bilingual correspondent that's running off to Nicaragua and doing something, I still use that skill that I learned in the career that I have today. Does that help? Yes. Okay.
Hi, my name's Dee. I was wondering how to get into an industry that doesn't exist yet in terms of a niche.
You want to get into an industry that doesn't exist yet?
Not like an industry, but a niche. Sorry, I missed.
Into a niche?
How do you get into a niche that doesn't exist? That means you have to make it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to get started because where I look doesn't have, there's not really a balance of anything close.
Okay, so you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to make it. You're going to be a first. And that path it's easier said than done because you don't have a template. But then it's going to be all you and all yours. And so however you get there, that's all. You're Lily? D. Okay. D, if it doesn't exist and you make it, then it's all you and it's all yours and it's your path. And that's very brave, but make sure that whatever that left turn or right turn you're planning to take, that you take the skills and don't reinvent the wheel. There are things out there that you'll be able to bring in so that you can craft whatever that niche is that you're trying to create. But how free is that? You're like the Jackson Pollock or Kandinsky of whatever that is, because you're free, but you'll still need some anchor tools that you can borrow to help to form whatever that path is. And I can't wait to hear what that is. I'm intrigued.
I think we all are.
Will you tell me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will tell you. We have time for one more question for Trenesa, up in the back.
Hello, I'm Antoine. I'm a senior in fashion design. My question was, I was wondering what advice you could give to moving up in a company. I know you talked about the first job being tough, but I guess I would like to know how to best leverage that experience to make sure you're able to move forward and to prevent yourself from being stagnant at a company.
Great final question, Antoine. And I'll tell you this, you have to advocate for yourself. No one's going to say, oh, you're great here. Has that ever happened in your career? It's always been because you have a constant conversation with your supervisors. You're giving them permission to provide you regular feedback so that you know, and then you can form what that next opportunity is. And because you're actively saying, hey, it's been 6 months. Can we sit down and talk about, what am I doing that you think I'm doing well, and where are opportunities for me to evolve and improve? And that dialogue will then set you up so that when those opportunities do present themselves to move up the ladder, you'll have this documented path of how you've gotten great kudos, you've now taken some notes and you've evolved, and you can say, you told me I needed to work on this, and I have, and so you've got that measurable. Those metrics of your professional performance will help arm you to be very confident in saying, I want to be considered for the next. But if you sit quietly and you just do your thing, no one's going to tap Antoine on the shoulder and say, hey, I see you just quietly doing things. It's Antoine that says, can I have a meeting with you? Can you tell me how I'm doing? Can you tell me what I can improve? And then when those opportunities present themselves, you'll have a record, what do you call it? The receipts, to show that you've done the stuff to be just as worthy for consideration for that position as someone else. Does that help?
All right, you got to advocate for yourself. Even the position that I'm in now, I raise my hand. So remember that. Don't be the quiet little worker bee. If you have aspirations and if you want to grow, you have to be the squeaky wheel. And the squeaky wheel is the person who says, I want you to give me that constructive feedback. It's okay if you tell me there's areas that I can improve. I understand I could have done that better, but be open to the possibilities of evolving your skill set. And the only way you're going to do that is if you have a conversation with your supervisors, your bosses, your leaders, so that they can give you that feedback. Okay?
And Antoine, if I can just add to what Trenesa has said, she said you have to have the receipts, which means results. You have to be results oriented, and people have to know what those results are. It's not about the amount of time that you've been in the job. Just because you've been in the job a year does not mean that you are ready for a promotion. You've got to be able to know your business inside and out, and as she said, it's very competitive. Are you on par with your peers? So there's a lot that you have to keep track of, but just know that it will happen if you are keeping it top of mind for yourself and for those people who are making the evaluation. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, 100%.
Wonderful. Trenesa, it's been wonderful having you here today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Please, let's give her a hand. Thank you. I would like to also allow Ms. Arrington the opportunity to make comments if you have any.
Well, thank you. I wasn't expecting to say anything, but you know, I can always talk. So I just 100% say yes, amen to everything you said. And I think one of the most important things I heard is be open to the constructive criticism. It's very difficult to take criticism, especially when you're young and you take it very personally. And we see it a lot because we do critiques and so forth here, but that is 100% the way you get better and hone your craft. And especially when the criticism is delivered in a way that you understand it's just to help you improve. You're going to have mean-spirited people out there who just try to break you down, but those who truly care and will mentor you, that's the criticism you want to listen to and act on. There's no substitute for it.
Amen.
It's like trial by fire. But I would like to also say thank you so much. This has been wonderful, and our friends from Saks, thank you for being here
Ann
too.
and Gerard.
We
Absolutely.
appreciate.
First time meeting Trenesa, and I'm so happy.
Hi.
We appreciate your support more than we can say. It means a lot to our students, and it means a lot to us as professors who are mentoring these students and trying to help them along the way. So thank you so much.
Mentoring them too.
Okay, we'll send you more.
Absolutely.
So for as much as we enjoyed having Trenesa and our guests from Saks here, we also want to thank all of you for being here, because if you were not here, we couldn't do this. So give yourselves a round of applause, and thank you very much for coming today.
Mike's off.
That was wonderful.